viewers, two times Ethiopian Air Force has conducted airstrikes on Mekelle within the last 48 hours. So now we can say that Ethiopian Air Force is expected to conduct airstrikes on Mekelle, on Tigray in coming days too. What are the options available for Tigray Defense Force? How to counter these airstrikes? Can these airstrikes prove effective? Can TDF counter these airstrikes? Does TDF have capability to neutralize these airstrikes? Well, several questions are under discussion. Speculations are being made. Of course, it's up to TDF generals to decide how to counter these airstrikes. We can discuss the options which TDF has at its disposal to counter these airstrikes. I think Tigray Defense Force has three options. Are these options doable? How viable are these options? We'll have a look at these options one by one. Before having a look at these options, let me clarify one thing. Tigray government's official narrative would always be that these are airstrikes on civilians, that civilians are being targeted. Of course, Tigray government, activists backed by TPLF, Tigray government, they'll always further this narrative that these are airstrikes against civilians. But in reality, ENDF is conducting airstrikes on targets, especially military targets. Having said that, it does not mean that civilians are not being killed. Civilians are being killed in these airstrikes too. But civilians are not targets. Target is TDF's infrastructure, its military capabilities, its supply lines, its arms depots. But you will always hear Tigray government saying that these are strikes against civilians. Now, the options available at TDF's disposal. First option, which every army has against airstrikes, is to deploy anti-aircraft systems, air defense systems, S-300, S-400, Patriot, Hawk, Pantsires. Does TDF have any anti-aircraft weaponry? Well, the anti-aircraft weaponry which TDF has isn't going to be effective against these Ethiopian bombers and fighter jets. TDF has only man-PADs, man-portable air defense systems, Zu-23 anti-aircraft guns, and some missiles as well. We heard that TDF has some long-range missiles. Do they have radars available? We don't know. Do they have launchers available? We don't know, viewers. So in terms of anti-aircraft weaponry, TDF's capabilities are very limited. TDF cannot deploy air defense systems to target these fighter jets, these bombers of Ethiopian Air Force. Can TDF acquire Hawk, Patriot, S-300, S-400? No possibility. Their delivery would also be a problem. How would these air defense systems be delivered to Tigray? Tigray is under siege. So no likelihood of TDF acquiring these air defense systems in coming days. Second option at TDF's disposal is to shift targets. ENDF's targets in Tigray, in Mekelle, will be shifted by TDF to unknown locations. Of course, Ethiopian National Defense Force must have prepared a list of targets in Tigray, in Mekelle. Their drones must have been busy over the past 1 to 2 months. They have been doing their reconnaissance, surveillance activities, and ENDF must be very clear about targets on the ground which its air force will hit. Then Ethiopian National Defense Force was in Tigray a few months ago. It was all over Tigray. It knows which place to hit, where the airstrikes should be conducted. So they have their planning, their plan ready. Now TDF will have to shift these targets. TDF can shift the targets to underground locations as well. Iran, most experts say, is building nuclear bomb. It is producing some very sophisticated missiles, drones, other type of modern weaponry. It's under scrutiny as well. And Israel has been carrying out strikes on Iranian facilities. Despite all the pressure from Israel, from the US, Iran has continued its program of developing nuclear capability. How did Iran manage that? Iran has built a very elaborate underground system, a tunnel system where almost entire Iranian weaponry is stored. It's manufactured as well. So there's nothing on the ground. Everything is under the ground. TDF will adopt similar strategy. And we have seen some mobilization a few weeks ago, which I talked about in a video, that TDF was seen in Tambian Mountains. It was reportedly shifting its assets to mountainous places. It will have to do that. It will have to shift its assets to mountainous places, to underground locations as well, in order to defend from these airstrikes. Very doable. I think TDF would be already working on that, because militaries plan ahead. They plan in advance. They don't plan after things happen. Third option, also doable with limited results, is to hit those places from where these Ethiopian Air Force aircrafts are flying. Of course, they're using some airports. Kambolcha, Gondar, Bahirdar. These airports can be hit by TDF, but it will have limited results. These aircrafts can use Asmara airport as well. They can use airports in Oromia as well. So it's difficult for TDF to hit all the airports from where the aircrafts are flying. I think TDF will need to shift its assets to safe places, firstly. Secondly, TDF will have to ensure its presence in Amhara region. If TDF is in Amhara region, it can put pressure upon Amhara region. It can hit targets here. It can advance towards strategic places here. It can hit airports as well here. If TDF starts withdrawing from Amhara, it will be under more pressure in Tigray in the face of these airstrikes. That is why I don't think TDF will withdraw from Amhara now. Militarily, now TDF needs to ensure its presence in Amhara region. One last thing, viewers. Airstrikes alone produce limited results. You need ground operations to support these airstrikes. So far, Ethiopian National Defense Force, regional forces, they have not started any ground operations into Tigray. When airstrikes start, they create panic. But gradually, people get used to it. Your rival parties, they make adjustments. And gradually, if airstrikes are not supported by ground operations, they lose their effectiveness. And last important thing is that you need ground intelligence as well. TDF will shift its assets in coming days. It would be shifting its assets, I think. What will happen after that? After that, ENDF will need ground intelligence as well, apart from surveillance and reconnaissance by its drones. It will be very hard for ENDF, for regional forces, to find ground intelligence in Tigray. People of Tigray are behind TDF. So, in coming days, we could see some panic, some losses suffered by TDF. TDF will adopt to this new phase of fighting. And gradually, you will see that if TDF manages to hold on to its positions in Amhara and no ground offensive is launched in Tigray successfully, then you could see that airstrikes would lose their effect.